Good morning and welcome. We've come together today to begin our work on the proposed county budget for fiscal year 2027. Please ensure all phones and electronic devices are set to silent. We will now stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance, and Ms. Ledbetter will lead.
Please pray in a manner consistent with your faith, as I pray in a manner consistent with mine. We gather today with a shared responsibility to steward the resources entrusted to us with integrity, wisdom, and care. As we consider this budget, may we remain mindful that people, families, and our community depend on intent listening, careful consideration, and thoughtful decisions. Guide us to act with fairness and lead with humility. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We are honored to have many of our elected officials in the audience this morning. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to recognize them. Please hold applause. We're just, just let me go through the whole list and you wave or stand up when I call your name, okay? Dr. Mark Bedell, Superintendent, Anne Arundel County Public Schools. Joanna Tobin, Robert Silkworth, Erica McFarland, Sarah McDermott, Dawn Pulliam, and Dana Schalheim, all from the Board of Education. Delegate Gary Simmons, Delegate Stuart Schmidt, Delegate Dylan Baylor, Senator Shanika Henson, Senator Pam Beidel, Jennifer Garcia from the Office of Delegate Andrew Pruski, Allison O'Brien from the Office of Maryland Senator Don Guile, Madison Bryce from the Office of Governor Wes Moore, Mayor Jared Littman, City of Annapolis, Alderwoman Janice Johnson from the City of Annapolis, Jessica Clayton from the Office of U.S. Senator Chris Van Hollen, and have I left anyone out? Any other? Oh, and Colt Lightus, State's Attorney. And so thank you all for coming out today. At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce County Executive Stuart Pittman. Mr. Pittman, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Wow. Good to see you all here. High expectations, I assume. A lot of people here. So, thank you. I want to start just by thanking the County Council for the invitation to present this FY27 budget proposal to you. And then I also want to thank everybody here, all the residents, all the public servants who are here in the council chambers and are listening online. Your engagement in the process is very, very important, so thank you. I will start with what I said at each of our 8 budget town halls in January and February. Budgets are a statement of values and strategy. The 7 that came before this one demonstrate a belief that government matters. Our schools, our public safety, our environment, our health, and the people who live here all benefit when we invest in effective government. I will note that I was deliberate in describing government spending and by extension the taxes that we pay as investments. The value, therefore, is not in the act of spending, but in the return delivered, the return on the health and the wellness of our residents. I and the leaders of the departments and the institutions that this budget funds are prepared to assist the County Council in its evaluation of those returns. This is the last budget that I will present as County Executive. And my commitment is to remain fiscally disciplined, to continue seeking the wisdom of our residents, and to prioritize opportunities for those among us who have too often been left behind. We enter this process with the highest bond ratings, the highest revenues, the greatest infrastructure investments, and the strongest workforce that this county has ever had. This final budget must leave for the next administration a house in good order. That's a pledge that I take seriously. I don't know who will be at the helm of the administration that presents the next 4 county budgets, but I want whoever it is to succeed. Our budgeting and fiscal discipline over the last 7.5 years has impressed our bond rating agencies. S&P, Moody's, and Fitch all notified us recently that for the 4th year in a row, we have accomplished what only 1.5% of the 3,143 counties in the United States have done, and that is 3 AAA bond ratings. Yes! People do care about that, I have found, and are very proud of that, as am I. We did not do that, however, by reducing services to our residents. We expanded them. We grew our economy. We pursued diversity, equity, inclusion, environmental justice, and opportunity for all. This budget projects an impressive $2.5 billion in revenues and $2.5 billion in the kind of spending that delivers a return. I will not pretend, however, that it delivers the economic justice that our families deserve. That will be possible only when the leaders we elect at the federal level find the courage to disobey their political donors, to fairly tax the excessive wealth that has accumulated in the hands of our oligarchy, and invest that money in our people and their infrastructure. If they look at this microcosm of America, they will see a model worth studying, a place where communities chose to engage, leaders chose to listen, and progress was launched. I'm proud of what we've achieved, and I'm proud of what this budget delivers. It's all right here in this 436-page operating budget and this 564-page capital budget, and in a searchable format at aacounty.org/budget. My job today is not to go through all of it, but to identify highlights, things that have been part of our public discourse and that impact our future. I will sort them as best I can in the essential buckets of health and human services, public safety, land use and government operations, education, and capital improvements. Health and human services is what I have recently referred to as protecting our people, a category where the federal government led in the past, but where President Trump has pledged to push responsibility down to local governments so that he can spend more on his wars. For us, food comes first. We need it to meet the needs of a growing number of families, so this budget delivers on a request by our food bank and its network of pantries to increase support from $1.5 to $2 million. Thank you to Leah Paley, her food bank team, and all of their allies in the battle against hunger for identifying the need and demanding that we meet it. Next is the defense of our families. This budget doubles the funding for our Office of Multicultural Affairs Family Protection Initiative to assist households that are victims of the ICE mass deportation campaign with legal assistance and crisis support services. Thank you to OMA Director Allison Flores and the advocates and service providers for making this work happen. If these dollar amounts for food and family defense are not enough, we will, with council approval, add to it from the $5 million in unallocated funds that this budget holds back for our Office of Emergency Management Federal Disaster Preparedness and Recovery Program. For Medicaid recipients who, after the midterm elections, will be desperately attempting to hold on to their health care coverage in the face of the big, beautiful bill's assault by red tape. This budget proposes 5 new Medicaid navigator positions in the Department of Health. So thank you to Dr. Toni Gedden and her team for planning in advance what we know is coming. And for those whose benefits are cut, we propose 2 new case managers to work in the Department of Health REACH program. Their job is to connect volunteer and discounted medical providers with what will be a growing number of uninsured patients. The most promising anti-poverty initiative in our county this year has been the Brooklyn Park's launch of Enough. It's the Engaging Neighborhoods, Organizations, Unions, Governments, and Households model, launched by Governor Moore to end childhood poverty where it is most concentrated. The initial funds are coming from the state, but it is attracting private investment and will produce measurable results that support our economy. Our program has outpaced others across the state because our extraordinary partnership for children, youth, and families under the leadership of Dr. Pam Brown has been setting the stage for this work in the 4 parts of our county with the highest concentrations of poverty, calling it Communities of Hope. To ensure that the partnership continues this work, we propose funding with county dollars the 5 grant-funded positions that oversee the 49-person agency's programs. Yeah, I think so too. Do we not love the partnership and their work? So a key to the transition that Brooklyn Park residents seek is the interruption of local violence. Looking at you there, Pete. Our Department of Health work with Cure Violence Global is delivering that interruption in Eastport and Severn. So we are proposing to expand the program to Brooklyn Park. That investment will not only save lives, but it will deliver economic activity where it's needed most. For seniors, this budget adds funds to the Nutrition Assistance Program. For homeless youth, it funds the Hip Hop House. For our neighbors returning from incarceration, it funds Turnaround Thursday. And while this does not fit into the category of human services, we have proposed funding a new adoption coordinator position at Animal Services. I know we got some fans up here. These health and human service investments create opportunity where before it was lacking, but none of that works if our communities are not safe. We've done important work to grow our public safety agencies, but have been motivated not so much by studies from industry consultants telling us how big our agencies should be, but by achievable proposals from our chiefs and directors that directly address the needs of our residents. This budget does that once again. For police, we propose 9 new positions: a new forensics examiner, a new middle school SRO to backfill a transfer to Severn Run High School, a new position to keep up with growing demand at Central Records, and most importantly, looking at you, Chief, 6 new positions to fully staff the 3rd daily shift at the place where crime scenes are watched, officers are informed in real time, and safety is delivered to our officers and our residents. Chief Awad and her team's state-of-the-art real-time information center. For our fire department, we propose 21 new firefighter positions to fully staff Chief Wolford's top priority, complete staffing for a new fire truck on the Annapolis Neck and South County. It's the largest single-year staffing increase we've made without federal support. We're also working with the city of Annapolis to jointly fund a new EMS peak medic post that serves both of our jurisdictions. So thank you, Mayor Littman, for bringing this proposal forward. Where did he go? There you are. All right. I want to commend both our Sheriff, Everett Sesker, and our Detention Superintendent, Chris Klein, for outstanding work in filling vacancies over the last 2 years and for their creative staffing solutions to address the needs of their departments. And to our state's attorney, Ann Colt-Litis, there she is. Thank you for not only operating all these last 7.5 years in the fiscally disciplined manner that you promised, but also for securing millions in outside grant funds and providing your attorneys the training and supervision that delivers your winning record in the courtroom. Thank you. And finally, I must recognize the professionalization and trusted coordination that keeps coming from our Office of Emergency Management and its director, Preeti Emmerich, as they coordinate all of our responses and lead the planning for our joint 911 call center. This budget, for the first time, fully funds the cabinet-level OEM director position from county general funds. Public safety is a team effort in Anne Arundel County, and it is a team that we can all be proud of. The same is true in land use and government operations. The work of our planners, public works, recreation and parks, libraries, central services, permitting, INT, and all of our basic government operations are and must be integrated. They are the stewards of our land and the managers of our place. We're protecting the natural spaces that nurture us with recent acquisitions at Glebe Heights by the South River, Saltworks Creek near the Severn, and the Looper property on the Magathie, and with an accelerated pace of agricultural and woodland preservation contracts. This budget proposal adds Rec and Park staffing for management of these properties, as well as for the new Edgewater Community Center and the Lake Waterford Indoor Tennis Facility. We should all thank Director Jessica Lays and her Department of Fun for their outstanding leadership of all of these facilities and lands. To facilitate efficiency in the regulation of both private and public development, where we said in Plan 2040 that we want it to take place, this budget funds our new Capital Program Optimization Initiative, with 4 positions at DPW, contractual assistance at inspections and permits, and a new position at Central Services. We've all been frustrated by the time that it takes to build things in our county. And because this program was designed by the people who do the work, it directly addresses the bottlenecks in the process. So thank you to DPW Director Karen Henry and all the people around her for building and maintaining this infrastructure. We had a pretty deep freeze this winter, and when it thawed, well, we got a heavy dose of potholes. That's why you'll notice a one-time boost of $458,000 in our road repair fund. So just call 311 and they will get to that pothole as quickly as possible. And in the interest of protecting and remembering our historic structures and lands, we proposed the conversion of 2 cultural resources contractual positions at Plan and Zoning to merit PINs. And among their tasks, we'll be overseeing a contract that is in this budget to prepare our application to the National Register of Historic Places for Crownsville Hospital Memorial Park. Like many members of this council, and like many of our county residents, I believe that our public schools are the best investments that we can make in our future. I support these investments because I read Dr. Bedell's impact reports. They show that we paid teachers more and we filled our vacancies. We complied with the blueprint mandate to invest in community schools and the ones with the highest concentrations of poverty, and those are the schools where test scores are rising the fastest. Our schools encourage more of our kids to take PSATs, SATs, and AP classes, and our PSAT, SAT, and AP scores are all up. We build new facilities and students thrive in them, and we offer bus drivers higher pay and bonuses, and they get our kids to school. So it's not just the money that makes the difference. It's the wise investment of the money in the people who produce the results. Yes. Before telling you what we will deliver this year for the half of our budget that goes to AACPS, I will share the story of how we got there. I was warned by the budget office that state formulas would work against us this year, and that the Board of Education would be making a request far outside of what projected resources could deliver. I said that I understood, but that under no circumstances would I return to the years before my term in office, when teachers were denied step increases and given cost of living adjustments consistently below those of other county bargaining units. County support for AACPS during those 4 years before I took office grew an average of only $17 million. During the last 3 years, the increase was 46.7, 47.8, and $52 million. That's when we started to see a return on our investment. About a month ago, I met with a group of teachers in my office. Most were from elementary schools and some were special ed. And they described life in their classrooms and the difficult personal choices they had made to keep showing up for our students. Their message was consistent with what I had heard from Dr. Bedell, from board members, and from our budget town halls, but it was more detailed, more real. It solidified my commitment to deliver all that I could not just in compensation, but also in staff support. So a week or two later, I got what we call a straw man spreadsheets to look at with a 2% COLA for teachers and none of the special ed positions that AACPS had requested. And it wasn't enough. We had already agreed to a 2.25% COLA with some of our bargaining units, some of our other bargaining units. So we decided that we needed some revenue for educators. And that's where this gets interesting. During the tax revolts of the early 1990s, Anne Arundel County voters passed a charter amendment that imposed on us a property tax cap. Its formula actually requires us to lower our tax rates in some years, even when the cost of providing services goes up, like now. I'm not alone in believing that it's wrong for voters in one generation to mandate for a future generation that they can't choose to pay for their own government services. Yeah. And believe it or not, former county executives from both political parties have privately shared this view with me. And the Maryland General Assembly created an exemption allowing counties to tax above locally imposed property tax caps as long as the funds generated support education. Allowing the cap to set our rates this year would reduce our revenues by about $15 million. Instead, we're striking a balance that delivers more of what our educators need while still lowering our taxes. This budget proposal keeps our progressive income tax rates exactly where they are and lowers our property tax rate to 96.8 cents per $100. That is 0.6 cents over the cap and 0.9 cents below the rate that we pay today. As always, I am open to working with the council to get this balance right. This budget may be the only one in the state of Maryland this year that cuts taxes, but it increases our investment in Anne Arundel County public schools by $20.8 million, more than last year's $52 million record, for a total year-over-year increase of $72.8 million. That investment gets all of our AACPS bargaining units their step increase plus a 2.25% COLA to match what the rest of our county public servants are getting. And it funds all blueprint requirements, all contract and charter school commitments, a $13 million additional contribution to the healthcare fund, and it creates 26 new desperately needed special education positions. And we know that Anne Arundel County Public Schools will continue to deliver the return that our county residents are looking for because they employ the best damn educators on the planet. But for homeowners whose state-issued assessments exploded in recent years, please note that this budget keeps our 2% homestead exemption in place. Any annual increase in value over 2% on the home you live in will not be taxed by the county. Got a taxpayer over here. All right. Finally, let's talk about the capital budget. Our investments in the infrastructure that will serve us for many years, the investments that we often borrow to pay for by selling bonds. In my very first meeting with the budget office as a new county executive, I learned about the enormous backlog of unfunded infrastructure projects, things like new schools, roads, libraries, community college buildings, parks, fire and police stations, basic public works. My predecessor recognized the problem, so he grew the capital program by extending our borrowing terms from 20 to 30 years, and in his last budget, capital budget exceeded the spending affordability. So I was given a choice, either scaling back our investments or creating a dedicated revenue source to grow the program. We and 4 members of the County Council chose the revenue option. We created the Permanent Public Improvements Program, our PPI, funded with a 0.1% increase in our income tax. You all know about all the incredibly impactful facilities that moved forward as a result of that decision because you approved each and every one of them, sometimes with unanimous votes. But the other part of the story is that we managed to deliver all of those things while never exceeding affordability. That is important, and it's fundamental to my promise of leaving the house in good order. But that is not an easy feat. Doing it this year meant some good projects didn't get funded or got postponed. But I am thrilled to announce that we were able to keep all of our major projects in the plan, move up funding by 3 years for our Arundel Fire Station, add funding for volunteer fire stations and improvements, fund the concept design for a new animal shelter, fund the Northern Police Station, add funding for Crofton Skate Park, get design underway for recreation facilities and housing with supportive services at Crownsville Hospital Memorial Park, fund the next phase of planning for the Regional Agricultural Center at the Lothian Grain Elevator, put funding in place for the new College Parkway safety improvements, fund Anne Arundel Community College Science and Math building renovations. This is an important one, and it's new. Transfer close to $60 million within the DPW Utility Fund to divert wastewater flow from the Patapsco treatment plant to our own county facilities to the south in the interest of lifting a devastating moratorium on new allocations and protecting the Patapsco River. And last but definitely not least, in addition to keeping pace with the school construction master plan, we've added funding for the first of 2 much needed field houses at Arundel and Chesapeake High Schools. So I will close with gratitude. Working with each of you over the last 7.5 years, we have improved services, created opportunity, engaged residents in democracy, and confronted threats. Our budgets have been the foundation of that work. We have not always agreed with one another, and on some matters we probably never will, but we work with respect. Respect for the rules that were established by those who came before us, respect for the institution we serve, and a desire to make it more effective, not weaker. And when I say we, I mean myself, our county council, our public servants, and our neighbors. Our ability in this county to celebrate our common interests and navigate our disagreements sets an example our nation needs in these troubled times. Our county council will take this budget proposal, conduct its own public hearings, and make improvements just as it has in each of the last 7 budgets. But this 8th budget is, for me, the most important. It is with this budget that I am able to leave for my successor and for our residents what I promised: a house in good order, a foundation from which we can truly make Anne Arundel County the best place for all. Thank you, everybody. All right. All right, there you go. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Pittman, and thank you everyone from the public who has been involved in sharing their ideas and the helping of the crafting of this budget. Do any of my colleagues want to make any comments? So, all right. Well, Mr. Smith.
Well, I'm just looking forward to getting to work. That was it.
Exactly. So this now marks the beginning of the budget time, and we will all be digging in to build on this foundation to make it even better to serve our people. So at this time, thank you all for coming. We will now take a recess until 1 p.m. May I have a motion to recess until 1 p.m.?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We will return at 1 p.m. Thank you. All right. Hold on. Welcome back, everyone. May I have a motion that the partial reading of any bill, resolution, amendment to a bill or resolution or minutes constitutes the reading of the whole?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Madam Secretary, please read the title of the bills to be introduced this afternoon.
Bill number 3226, an ordinance concerning annual budget and appropriation ordinance of Anne Arundel County. Bill number 3326, an ordinance concerning tax levies, special community benefit districts, shore erosion control districts, and waterways improvement districts. Bill number 3426, an ordinance concerning tax levies, Arundel Gateway Special Taxing District. Bill number 3526, an ordinance concerning tax levies, Arundel Mills Special Taxing District. Bill number 3626, an ordinance concerning tax levies, Dorchester Special Taxing District. Bill number 3726, an ordinance concerning tax levies, National Business Park Special Taxing District. Bill number 3826, an ordinance concerning tax levies, National Business Park North Special Taxing District. Bill number 3926, an ordinance concerning tax levies, Two Rivers Special Taxing District. Bill number 4026, an ordinance concerning tax levies, Village South at Wall Chapel Special Taxing District. Bill number 4126, an ordinance concerning public works utilities, fire flow test charge. Bill number 4226, an ordinance concerning public works utilities, infrastructure maintenance fee, utility investment fee. Bill number 4326, an ordinance concerning public works, solid waste collection, solid waste service charge. Bill number 4426, an ordinance concerning public works utilities, metered water and wastewater charges. And bill number 4526, an ordinance concerning property tax and semi-annual payment service charge.
Take a deep breath. Very nice. You did it. We will now hear from the Planning Advisory Board. Mr. Kurtz.
Good afternoon. Thank you. My name is Gus Kurtz. I'm Chair of the Planning Advisory Board. And first and foremost, I'd like to thank our board members for all their hard work, their time, their advice, and all their recommendations and consideration with our budget review and process. The PAB is charged with recommending the list of capital projects to be implemented by the county. Our board believes the capital budget should be consistent with the county goals and policies, Plan 2040, and the water sewer master plans. The PAB has had numerous all-day meetings during the presentations from all the departments, and we spent many hours deliberating all the department requests. The initial department requests were $954 million over affordability in the 6-year cycle. With much help from the budget office, we were able to come to a budget recommendation that is fiscally conservative and funds most important regulatory, quality of life, safety, and preservation needs. The PAB asked all departments to prioritize their requests, and in most cases, the budgets were brought back to the plan with small increases for the future. This year's summary, I would say, is let's finish what you have started. In other words, there are so many ongoing projects that are already started or in the plans and soon to be completed. These projects must be finished. So once we looked at the funding of those existing projects and their cost increases, there was not much funding left to start many new projects. With that said, I'll just go back over the past couple years on some really big projects that took up a lot of the funding. Police Training Academy, 911 call center, the Old Mill School projects, Severn Run High School, Fire Training Academy, new fire stations, new libraries, IT enhancements, many bike trails and parks, etc. I would like to note also that some of the projects are once-in-a-lifetime projects requests, and they would be from Agricultural Preservation Program and Royal Legacy Program. It's critical to have funding for those programs because when the opportunity arises, you need to make sure that the funding is there. There were so many great projects that were requested, it really hurts not being able to fund them all. The PAB has recommended that some of these very important projects be reduced due to affordability, and we look forward to revisiting those projects in the future. In summary, our final PAB budget recommendation is approximately $1.22 billion over the 6-year period, and that is $2.2 million under affordability. The capital budget for 2027 is $354 million, and it's under affordability by $7.3 million. Our board voted unanimously to approve the recommendation, and it's been my pleasure to serve as chair of this board. And I would like to thank the Budget Office for all their help. Are there any questions?
Yes. Any questions? Okay, all right. I thought for sure. Okay, all right. So, all right, we have no questions. Thank you all
Okay.
for all your hard work. We're
thank you very much.
Very, very grateful for the time and effort that you put in. Yes, we can do this.
thanks.
We can do this.
Thank you.
This is, for those watching at home, the PAB is a volunteer commission that puts in enormous number of hours to help us with this on, you know, the spending things that which can be a little dry sometimes to deal with. So we are very grateful for their dedication and
Well, thank
to
you.
that.
We really have a lot of great board members.
So,
So,
great.
thank
Thank
you.
you so much. All right. Next, we will hear from the Spending Affordability Committee. Mr., and I'm going to say it wrong. Is it Juppé? Oh, I got it right. Thank you, Mr. Juppé.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the council. Dr. David Juppé, Chairman of the Spending Affordability Committee, here once again to regale you with the efforts of the committee as it met to consider growth in the economy for next year and make a recommendation in both the growth in the spending for the operating and capital budgets for fiscal 2027. The committee held several meetings in the fall of 2025 and heard from several economists and looked at several economic forecasts. And as you know, the purpose of the committee is to recommend that government spending grow in accordance with growth in the economy so that the operating component of the budget doesn't grow too fast or faster than the economy and then leave the county in a position where taxpayers have to pay additional taxes or fees to fund government operations. The committee reviewed the future forecast for the economy and determined that a reasonable recommendation for growth was 4.7% in personal income. We use personal income as a proxy for growth in the economy, and the committee looked at a number of factors. The committee is very concerned that the economy appears to be slowing. Unemployment has gone up a little bit higher. Mortgage rates remain above 6%. Housing sales have been suppressed for a couple of years now. And overall, the job growth in the economy has been slowing. The committee was also concerned at the time that the impact of tariffs might lead to higher prices, and that would also have an effect on the cost of government for the next fiscal year. Now, the growth in inflationary expenses due to tariffs has not come to pass as some economists had feared, but the committee did not anticipate that there would be a war in the Middle East and that would have a similar effect on inflation, which as of March was 3.3%, which is a little bit higher than prior months. So given that inflation does seem to be with us at least for this calendar year, the committee does still feel that 4.7% is a reasonable growth limit for the fiscal 2027 operating budget, which would allow for growth of $109.7 million. For the capital budget, the committee also recommended a 4.7% growth limit, but it has been county policy to limit growth in the capital budget to 4%. And that would allow for growth of hold on, I have my number right here. Now I can't find it. $98.1 million for fiscal 2027. So those are the recommendations of the Spending Affordability Committee, and I would also like to thank the assistance of the Budget Office who were instrumental in staffing our meetings and helping us to have all the materials that we needed to prepare our final report to you. Thank you. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? So again, thank you again, an all-volunteer board that spends a lot of time really poring over and delving into things deeply, and we really appreciate your expertise and your recommendations. So thank you, Dr. Japay, and your whole team, and we can also applaud.
Thank you.
And now, once again, the infamous budget officer, Mr. Chris Trumbauer.
Infamous. My goodness. You haven't even seen my presentation yet.
Your reputation precedes you.
I'm not sure if that's good or bad. I'm sure you will, Mr. Volke. I am sure you will. Oops. Hey, look at that. All right. Well, thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Chris Trumbauer, Budget Officer. Happy to be with you guys once again this year. As you know, we're about to go on a wild ride together, not only for the next 45 minutes or so, but for the next 45 days or so. And I want to take a moment at this point, before I dive into numbers to regale you, to give a heartfelt thanks to the budget team themselves. I think they're all seated here among the dense audience in the chambers today. But particularly, Huja does the revenue estimate, Stephen leads the operating budget, Naomi leads the capital budget, and then Bo, Kyle, Marika, and Donna are our budget analysts. You will be seeing them all when departments come before you. And then, of course, Janae is our guru for everyone's favorite special community benefits district. So I'm the one that's up here talking to you guys right now, but this is the brains behind the operation for sure. So I want to be sure to thank them. All right, so buckle in, everybody. I got 76 slides, but don't worry, I'm going to go fast. And the reason that I do this every year is because I like to think that you will use this presentation as a reference material for your next, 45 days of work. We're going to talk about a lot of the different things that are in the budget. It's very hard to digest this and this. So what we're going to talk about today will hopefully boil down some of the key things that might interest you. And of course, myself and the budget office stand ready to help you throughout the coming weeks. All right, just a reminder, it's budget season for you guys right now. Budget season starts for us in September. So we're at kind of the culmination of a long way to get here. We're going to start talking about 27 by talking about fiscal year 26. So what you can see here, we've shown the estimated 26 revenue. This is very important to help form our projections for fiscal year 27, but we're showing you the approved, then we're showing you the revised, and what the delta is between those two. And then you can see most things track pretty close, and you might think $8.3 million on the top line, that's a lot. That's less than 1% of the overall estimate, and Huja does that one, and he's very proud of getting that very close. There are two that have a rather large variance here, and I wanted to talk about them for a second. It's the income tax and the investment income. Both of those amounts are to the good, right? We revised estimates upwards. They're both also boosted by what we consider one-time revenue. Certainly in the income tax, there's been a recurring boost as well. But there's some things coming in from prior tax years. I'll talk about that a little bit more. And then on the investment income, I'm going to show you a graph that shows that traditionally the county receives very little in interest in investment income, but because of the high interest rates right now, we're getting a big amount. It's not smart to budget that as if it's recurring because that will go away, and we will see what happened back when I first came on the council during the Great Recession, when the county had budgeted unsustainable revenues as recurring, and then some of you may remember what happened back then. But if you total it all up, we are about $149 million to the good of the approved budget revenue estimates from the current year. And then you see those that fund balance number, that's color-coded, and you're going to see why it's color-coded in the following slides. So to kind of get where we are now, you can see that in 26 we planned, the budget that we adopted planned to use $165.8 million of fund balance. But when you look at our revenue, what we project, and then what was passed in the approved budget were that $149.1 million to the good. You're going to subtract $19.2 million of that from the expenditure line, and you get $129.9 million. So the actual fund balance utilization in the current year budget is 35.9. You see how that tracks? I'm going to show you it a different way as well. So you can also look at the ACFR, the Annual Comprehensive Report, and you can see that as of the end of fiscal 25, we had 251.7 million. We designated 165.8 for use. Available at the end of the fiscal year in 25 or the beginning of the fiscal year 26 is 85.9. So there's your 129.9 a different way, and then that gives the number 215.8 million that is available for this upcoming budget, right? And so you see the way at the bottom, which is just subtracting the 35.9 from 251. So two ways to get at the same number, $215.8 million deployable the upcoming budget, okay? So speaking of the upcoming budget, let's talk about 27. Here's the budget number that everyone wants to know. How big is the budget? This is the operating general fund budget, $2.577 billion in change. Keep in mind about $210 million of that is fund balance that's deployed. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Chris, you just showed me a $215 million number. Where's the extra 5? Good eyes. That is exactly right. Where's that extra 5? It is being held back unappropriated, similar to what we did this year for the be able to react to any federal responses. Okay, so that's where the extra 5 is. I know you all caught that. All right. Year-to-year growth. So you can see the 27 budget. There's $2.5 billion and change. That's a modest growth from 26. If you just look at the numbers, it's 7.3, but we like to do apples to apples, so we adjust the increase in fund balance there to make it equal, and so you get it's $131.7 million increase year over year. You might remember during the budget town halls, we were projecting about 125, I think, so it's a little bit to the good there. Most of that increase came on the income tax side. All right, I'm going to start out with some stories of the budget. So these are things that we want you to know going into this. First, as I mentioned, the revenue projection is pretty close to what we thought. Huja tuned things up a tiny bit on income tax at the end there. Some significant expenditure increases, and this is really what drove the budget this year. First, as you know, because we discussed this at the work session, I think, the self-insurance fund claims went way up. So we had to put money behind claims. Healthcare fund claims also increasing. Gas and electricity. We were already seeing an increase in this, and then the Iran conflict kind of ticked it up even more. So you're going to see higher levels budgeted for both gas and electricity in departments this year. And then the final thing is that this is good news, lower vacancies. Departments are hiring their vacancies. That's very good, but that means we can realize less turnover savings, which we're used to enjoying, being able to reprogram that into other parts of the budget. So a little bit of good news, and then the other bad thing is that our friends at the state, during their budget process, managed to shift about $4.2 million of costs from state over to us. So that is not as bad as it could have been, but that's still $4.2 million hit on our expenditure side. There are new positions in this budget, as you heard from the county executive speech. Most of those are to meet current capacity needs, so we're not launching a lot of new initiatives that we're hiring pins for or anything. This is just kind of keeping up with demand. The property tax rate is decreasing because that's how the property tax revenue cap works. But as the county executive mentioned in his speech, he is setting a rate that's 0.6 cents above the tax cap rate. That will generate about $6.1 million of additional revenue, which will go to the school system, and in particular to fund a equitable compensation package for the educators and also for those special education positions. So that's historic funding for the school system. And one of the good things we had going for us was when we got our valuation for the pension and particularly for the OPEB, or the Retiree Health Benefits Trust this year, we got a number that was much lower than what we had plugged in as a placeholder. So that allowed us to move those savings straight over to the Board of Education as well. And then the other thing is, and the county executive focused on this in his remarks, really enhancing supports for some of those critical safety net programs, many of which we started during the pandemic, but have kept going in some varying form even after that is over. So some highlights in the budget. I won't go through this. This is mostly just a reference, but we mentioned the property tax rate decreased. The income tax rates are unchanged. Maxing out the rainy day fund, historic Board of Ed funding, and then some of the things on the public safety side, 21 new firefighters, and then the full staffing now for the Arctic Center. So I fully expect no crime next year whatsoever. They're got eyes on everything. And then also the DPW optimization program. This is really important. You'll see a couple new positions in DPW General Fund and a couple in the Utility Fund, and then a buyer position in Central Services. These are really to help try and speed up our capital program and get that process streamlined so we can get things done faster. So a lot of work went into DPW's recommendations there, and we hope that you will support them. And then all the other things, we fully fund all of our obligations, the capital budget's within affordability limits, and there's your utility rates at the very bottom. All right, so this is a fun slide that there's no way you'll be able to read from where you are, but it's more of a reference. This is just showing you by department what the 26 budget was, what the 27 proposed budget was, the delta and the percentage. You know, take all of that with a grain of salt because it does include all funding and one time and everything like that, but it gives you a nice little snapshot of where the changes are this year. All right, so let's go into a little revenue detail. Here's all the revenue. It's $2.577 billion. About 3/4 of that is property and income tax. The rest are very smaller slices of the pie. You'll notice the fund balance is pretty big there. That's 8%. That's the $210 million of fund balance we talked about. Here's a little bit more detail. This is showing you 27 compared to the 26 approved budget and then our revised estimates. So you can see income tax there. It's up. The 27 amount is up compared to the approved budget of this year, but it's actually slightly down compared to what we revised the 26 projections to be. So you heard Dr. Juppé talk about how the job market is softening. We're seeing that too, and we think that some of the last couple years, the income tax receipts have been a little elevated due to some of the prior year reconciliation payments that have been coming in a wonky way from the state. The other thing is investment income. That's not entirely an apples to apples thing because we don't budget for everything we know we're going to get in because we only budget for what we think is a good recurring baseline. So then we adjust that in the revision, more of a reflection of what we think, but we capture some of that as one-time revenue as well. So when you see the blue outline there, that is our total recurring revenue. You can actually see that it's down a little less than a percentage point compared to the 26 revised. And then once you add in the fund balance number, you see those numbers go way up. All right, let's talk about property tax. In each of these details, I've showed you the page number of the budget book so that you can see for yourself. So you see that up at the top right. But the current rate that is in effect now in the end of fiscal 26 is 97.7 cents. As the county exec mentioned, the proposed budget includes a new rate of 96.8. That is 0.6 cents higher than what the tax cap rate would be. But the reason that the tax cap rate decreased so much this year is because assessments went up. And when assessments go up, you know that means that it's affecting how much revenue the county would capture from that particular rate. We have the tax cap, we also have the homestead credit, and so there's a very complex calculation, but we use it to find out that tax cap rate, and when we applied that, it would give us the total amount of revenue that you see there, minus about 6.1 million, because that's the part we're adding above the cap. As you know, the state law requires any revenue that's realized above the revenue cap number needs to be directed to the Board of Education. So you can see the rate there for also Annapolis and Highland Beach.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Smith has a question.
Because I didn't want you to get off the slide and then not lose what I thought I was going to have. Those assessments, when we do about a third each year,
We do a third each year.
and so it's that third that went up, or historically you've seen even the 2/3 that have not been assessed this year, they were the previous two, and so that's what's.
Okay, great question. So yes, the region that got assessed in the most recent new state assessment is the mostly West County and North County area. It happens every 3 years, but let's say, for example, I believe the new assessments for that region was about 15%. It gets phased in over those 3 years. So it'd be 5%, 5%, and 5%, right? So the other regions that got, for instance, if there was a 15% increase for Region 2 last year, they would have got 5% last year, 5% this year, 5% next year. Also, we have the 2% homestead credit. So even if your assessment is going up 5% by the state, if you have the homestead credit, it's only going up by 2%. So what happens to the rest? It just keeps backlogging. I'll show you a graph, but that's a buffer where the county's not collecting that. So even though your property value may be here, your assessment is here. And that buffer can keep growing when assessments are going up. But short answer to your question, everybody's is probably going up, even those that didn't get assessed in this region most recently, but it's phased in over 3 years. Well, he has a question now.
Just said that we don't usually ask questions during this, but
No, this is great.
We broke the seal. I like it.
Yeah,
I like to get
I
in.
like it too.
So, if we're at 6.1 over the cap, what I think the other way of saying that is if we can find $6.1 million in savings, we could be at the cap.
That is correct.
Okay.
If you want to cut $6.1 million from the budget, you could set a property tax rate at 9.62. You'd have to cut some things.
Understood.
Okay. I mean, we kind of like the budget as it is, but it's in your all's hands now. So, all right. So this is how we compare to our neighbors. You can see that we are to the right side of the graph, which means everyone to the left is paying a higher property tax rate than ours. One thing to point out, we don't have everyone's 27 proposed in this, so we're using the 26 approved for all the other jurisdictions, and we're comparing what we're proposing for 27 to that. So if there are any changes that are coming for the other jurisdictions, that's not reflected here. What would this look like? So we're going to keep the assessed value constant, even though we just established that assessments are going up. But just to show you, on a $300,000 home, that's about $27 difference between the two rates. For a $500,000 single family, it's about $45, and then it's about $90 on a $1 million home or more. So not nothing, but not extreme amounts either. This is a neat slide because it shows you what the property tax revenue has been all the way going back to 1994. And the blue line is showing you, that's adjusted for inflation. So it's showing like today's dollars. And what I thought was cool about this is if you go back 4 or 5 years right before, or maybe right during the pandemic, it's the same amount of revenue that the county is taking in this year compared to, I think it was fiscal year 21. But because we weren't able to capture the true inflation rate at that time because it was above our max of 4.5%, you see it starts dipping down and coming back. So even though the red line tracks upwards because those are in the dollars at the time, if you look at an inflation adjusted amount, we're actually equivalent to where we were a few years back. This is the buffer I was talking about, Councilmember Smith. So right now in the county, there's about $15.1 billion of assessed value that is not being taxed. So if property values were to crash suddenly, we would have to lose $15.1 billion before the county got any harm to that. So it's a great protection for the taxpayers, but it also protects us in a time of economic downfall. All right, so switch gears to income tax revenue. I included for your reference the little bracket there that reminds us all that we have a 3-tiered rate on the different income levels. So basically in 26, Receipts are projected to be much higher than what we originally budgeted to. That's, as I mentioned, delinquent and fiduciary returns and reconciliation distributions. They've been coming in super wonky. Huja and his revenue estimate groups have all kinds of meetings. And what we're experiencing is not unique. That's happening to jurisdictions across the state. People are just doing their taxes differently since the pandemic and since the federal tax laws have changed. So in 27, we are looking at a modest increase compared, or a pretty good increase compared to the budget amount, but for the revised actually ticking down a little bit in recognition that some of that money won't carry forward. This is what I talk about, those wonky one-time distributions. So we're showing you only the portion of income tax that comes from penalty and interest, delinquency, and fiduciary returns. And what you'll notice is that the 3 years there in fiscal 23, 24, and 25, those are way higher than everything else. And that corresponds to when the federal government and the state government simultaneously enhanced their enforcement provisions, and then also corresponds to some changes in the tax law. So we think that this is going to settle out, and we think it's going to drift back down eventually closer to the more background sustainable level of about $60 million there. So that's why we're not budgeting all of those one-time revenues going forward. Here's a similar one that I showed you before. This is just showing you on the income tax side. It's a little noisier because we have those 3 rates. So what's colored in the gold bar is kind of the middle rate that we pay, the 2.94%, which most people pay the majority of their income. But there's dotted lines there that show that our higher income earners are 3.2%, and then that lower amount up to $50,000 is 2.7%. But you can see that 2 jurisdictions in the current budget year actually did go above 3.2 with the new law last year, and they set it at 3.3. And they're both, interestingly, conservative Eastern Shore jurisdictions, so you never know what's going to happen. Okay, so here's income tax revenue, just a similar story here, but it's in real dollars and then inflation adjusted dollars. You can see a similar thing. There's, it went up a little bit and then down, because we kept our rates the same, even though inflation went up. Recordation and transfer, not a lot to talk about here because we're keeping it flat. We're just waiting for mortgage rates to go down so that our activity recovers. This is what that big spike a couple years ago looked like. Remember, we didn't budget to it, and that's why we didn't run any deficits. We budgeted to the background, and it came back down to the background. But we'd all like to see it go back up because that is more revenue to the county. This is showing you why. The red is the housing costs and the blue is the activity. So even though prices have stayed high, activity has dropped out and not recovered, and it will do so as long as these mortgage interest rates stay above 6%. When and if they drop down, I think there's some pent-up activity that's waiting, and we should hopefully see a boost there. Okay, so this is transfer tax specifically for the Housing Trust Fund. Remember, above $1 million transaction, that goes into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So we met our projections in the current year. Mostly that's because the Annapolis Town Center sold, and that's a big commercial property. We wish it would sell every year because that was a nice little boost there. Probably not going to work out that way. So the 27, we're actually tuning the projection down just a tad. Again, this will pick back up once activity goes up, but we don't want to get overextended in any of our funds. State shared revenue, this is money that we get from our partners at the state. It's things like highway user revenue and the gambling money and admissions and amusement. It's largely flat. Highway user revenue goes up according to what the state programs in. And we tuned up the admissions and amusement tax a little bit this year. Local sales tax is a bunch of little things, but the big one is the motel hotel tax. We're actually revising that down a little bit this year. And our friend, the telephone tax, goes down about $500,000 every year because people aren't using landlines. This is what that looks like over time, just showing you that there was a big dip during COVID, but we have recovered to that and kind of gotten back on. But, this is largely a fairly flat revenue category, and we don't expect a lot of movement going Licensing and permits. I'll show you a chart next, but pretty flat here as well. No new fee schedules went into effect for FY27. We did do an adjustment last year, but there's not a whole lot of growth going on right now. So you can see licensing and permits is pretty flat. And here's the chart that shows you that over the last 2 years. And then the perk up from 25 to 26, most of that is not due to activity, but rather because we increased some of the fee schedules. All right, investment income. This is a fun one because it's really high right now, but we know that's not sustainable. And the way we budget this is we try and budget to the recurring rate. And then if and when it comes in higher than that, we realize that as one-time revenues, and that protects us. So, you can see it's flat compared to original budget. It's negative 63% compared to the revised, and that's just reflecting the one time. I know you may be skeptical, but here's a graph that shows you why. Look, from FY 2010 all the way to FY 22, we never got more than $7 or $8 million. A couple of years ago, we got $50 million, right? Well, we showed the recordation and transfer chart to you a few slides back that showed what happens when something spikes, it goes back down. So we're just being smart about that. We love getting our investment income, but we are not going to spend it on recurring things. All right, so just a potpourri of other revenue, things like ride share and the ambulance fees and the red light cameras and all of that, basically all flat. The one thing I just want to remind everybody is the red light and speed camera programs, these are safety programs. We're not making any money because the revenue that we're getting for that, we're pretty much turning around and we're paying the contractor to implement the program. So the county is not making money on those. All right, interfund reimbursement. This is where we just move things around between the different special funds and the general fund. So it's more of an accounting maneuver, but you've got everything totaled up here. You can see it's $87.5 million. You can find more detail on that on page 60 in the budget book. Here's our rainy day fund. This is a great story because the council, you guys have worked with the administration over the last 6 or 7 years to grow that. I remember when it was 5% max. Now we're all the way up to 8%. Bond rating houses love that. We've got almost $190 million projected by the end of this year, and that will be ready to be deployed when and if the next recession hits. All right, here's a nice little summary for you for all the tax rates and the fee changes. Look at all those negative numbers. Well, that's the property tax right there. We know that at least some of you like tax cuts, so here's something you can see, a bunch of negative numbers on there. And all the other fees in the utility funds and the wastewater funds are noted there as well. All right, let's talk about where the money's going, expenditure detail. Here is a pie chart representation, and you can see Board of Ed is half the budget. We include this as fully loaded, which means the indirect contributions to the Board of Ed as well as the direct contribution. And then the next biggest slice of the pie is our public safety core group. Here's just the appropriation amounts that match the percentage on the pie charts before. New positions. We mentioned that there are some new positions in this budget. The biggest chunk is the firefighters, so 21 new firefighters. There's also 9 new positions in the police department. We talked about the public works ones because of the capital improvement program, and then the ones in information technology, those are largely having to do with the transition from the Enterprise One system to the new Oracle financial system. And then there's a handful of other positions in the other departments, but by and large, those are for keeping up with the existing programs. They've just grown or they've got new needs. So the 27 pay packages, pretty consistent across bargaining units and our non-rep group, about 2.25% COLA. We have reached tentative agreements with most of our bargaining units, but there's 3 that have not yet, and we'll see what happens there. There are 4 that are in the second year of 2-year deals. And so you might remember from the county exec's remarks that the teacher COLA for Board of Ed is equivalent to 2.25%, which was very important to the administration. So pretty much an equitable pay package, compensation package for all county employees across the board. It's just a snapshot of the debt service. The general county and the Board of Ed are almost equal, which is interesting. And then we have our community college, and then remember we have the debt service for the Compass Point Golf Course. We'll pay for that thing eventually, and that'll come off the books. All right, here's a debt service history, and this one's interesting because you can see the black bars there is the Board of Ed, and you can see how Board of Ed spending has really ramped up. That kind of peaked when we brought in the Old Mill Master Plan projects. We're kind of now at the tail end of that, getting ready for the next cohort of big school projects. But you'll notice that the county CIP debt service is also much slower, but has also inched upwards. This is just a representation that shows that Anne Arundel is kind of unique among our Central Maryland jurisdictions, that we have a little bit lower debt percent of assessable base, which is a good place to be. So most of our comparable jurisdictions are at 3% or higher, whereas we're a little bit over 2%. This is a good slide because this shows you our debt service to operating revenue. This is one of our affordability guidelines. And what's cool about this is you can see that the trend is not going up, up, up. So we're not, at least not yet, we're not getting close to our, our threshold there. So the ratio is declining. And, as we add more debt and as the bonds actually get used and construction gets underway, you will maybe see that climb in future years. I want to talk a second about the retirement and pension system and then also the OPEB, but we fully made our actuarially determined contribution, or ADC. You can see that's $164.7 million. And our funded ratio for pension program, depending on if you look at the actuarial way or the market value way, it's about 75% if you split the difference, which is pretty good, but we want to strive to get that up to 100. I will note that the placeholder that we put in initially for the pension contribution was higher than what it ended up being, so we were able to realize some kind of quote-unquote savings, and that was in part due to the market performance, and that's why we invest in these things, right? So the stock market did really great, our investments did really great. That means more return on that investment goes into the fund, and so you have to put less cash in to keep up with your payment plan. Same general story on the OPEB or retiree healthcare. The total contribution there is about $43.5 million. Again, we brought in the Board of Education to that just a few years ago, and so that was a big, a big bump in what we had to contribute. But again, we realized some savings there, and we were able to utilize those expenditure savings and put over on the actual programmatic side of Board of Ed. So here's what the Board of Ed funding looks like. If you take it all together, the direct funding is over $1 billion this year for the first time. And then you add in all the other things we do, the debt service and their OPEB and the school health officers and the SROs and the crossing guards and all of that. And we're about $1.25 billion all told to the school system, which is almost exactly half of our entire general fund budget. So here's all the funding sources. You can see county is 56.4% of them. If we look at the unrestricted funds, which is really, that's kind of where the action is, you can see we're almost 62% there. And so we're 79.2% of the increase this year. So we did 72.8 or 72.9, depending on how you round. This year it's historic funding, but remember, I'll show you in this slide, we're getting almost $27 million less on an incremental basis from the state. So think about it, the first $26.57 million, that's just backfilling the delta from the state. So even though 72.9 million is a lot of money and it's a great investment, it's almost, you could think of its equivalency to last year when we did $52 million, because you would kind of have to subtract 26 million off the top of that. Here's just some quick highlights of Board of Education funding, and I won't belabor these because the county exec mentioned them in his speech, but we did do the equitable COLA at 2.25, $20.7 million for employee benefits. The big chunk of that is $13 million for their healthcare fund. All the blueprint mandates and requirements and all the contractual obligations are met, and then we were able to add 26 new special education positions, and I'm sure Matt Stansky and Bill Heiser will be explaining all the nitty-gritty to the Board of Ed line items when they come before you in a couple weeks. Community college funding, again, they got $2.4 million more this year from us. and they did get a little bit more from the state, and they also raised their tuition this year, which was good. So it turns out that the increase in county contribution is equivalent to their increase in tuition. So that was good. This is just showing you what that three-legged stool looks like. The green is the tuition, and they have been kind of increasing that percentage slowly and surely. The orange-ish color there is the estate. That has unfortunately been decreasing as they BRFA out money from the CAID formula every year. And then the county, which has been consistent, but unfortunately in a proportional way, it's been consistent above the kind of 1/3 level, which is the traditional, three legs of the stool thing. But we love our community college. We keep supporting the community college. We love what they're doing. And so we will consistently keep funding it. Library funding, the county's the big player here. We give them 91% of their funding, and you can see that we gave an increase this year of $1.1 million, which is about 88% of their overall increase. Now I'm going to summarize the operating budget in general. So the budget's balanced. That's always a good thing. You can see there our recurring revenue, then you see our fund balance utilization. That comes to the total revenue of $2,583 million. We appropriated $2.577 billion of it, and that leaves the $5.7 million, and that is our federal impact contingency, or I forget the term of art that the county exec used in his speech.
Just a minute, Mr. Trumbauer. Mr. Volke.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Ms. Hummer. Okay, so again, just following up on my line of question before, the 6.1 million that's over the cap.
Yes.
If we were to appropriate the 5.7 million that you've held back, we'd only need $400,000 in cuts somewhere else to get into the cap.
Technically, yes, but
Okay.
those are one-time funds. So
Gotcha.
you would, if you would be putting them into recurring expenditures, and you would be creating a structural deficit. There's
Gotcha.
nothing that precludes doing that, but we have always tried to bring you a structurally sound budget.
Copy. Thank you.
Okay, so fund balance and one-time utilization. Here's the 6.5 from investment income, which is great. And then the fund balance that gets you your 216.6 total. And then here's where it's going. So then there's no surplus or deficit in our budget. It's flat. And the last few years we've maintained to do that. That we did open up a structural budget during the COVID pandemic, but we were able to quickly close that as revenues recovered. All right, let's talk about capital budget. The first thing to talk about capital budget is that we've got our 3 AAA bond ratings, which means we get the best available interest rate on our bonds, which is awesome. Only 1.6% of counties or local jurisdictions in the nation have that, so that's a nice thing that you should all be proud of. Here's our debt affordability model. We are this year, new authorization of $160 million. Remember a few years back, we started ramping that up. So in 29, it's 165, and then in 30 and beyond, it's 170. I've highlighted on the left the affordability ratios and the debt guidelines. And then you can see for all 6 years, we are well within those guidelines and maintain a pretty stable profile there. This is showing you the kind of overall affordability and the use of bonds and pay-go. And if you go all the way to the bottom of the FY27 column, you'll see we're $5.7 million under affordability for that individual year. And then if you go all the way out to the end of 32, you see the cumulative is $5.8 million. So we are under our affordability limits. What that means is that there's $5.8 million of buffer before we would run up into our, essentially our bond limit that we could do. To be totally candid with you guys, it was a little tighter than that into a couple weeks ago, and then we got good news from the school system that the IAC increased the funding to the to Anne Arundel by $3 million. So that gave us a little bit more breathing room than we have. But we always like to have a little bit of a buffer because in the final days of budget, when we tie everything up, it can go a little this way or it can go a little that way, and we don't want to bring you a negative. So Here's just a summary of everything that we have done in the PPI program. There's only a little bit left, and we're looking to fully deploy it in FY27 in 2 different projects, or actually it looks like some of them are negative. So really it's going into the joint 911. And then the $250 million for PPI will be fully deployed and implemented, which is great. Real quick, some capital budget highlights. The important thing here, there's really only a handful of new projects, and that was deliberate. As you heard the county exec said, he didn't want to start a whole new projects and then his successor would inherit them. So we're kind of leaving a level playing field for the next administration to come in and set their path. But we're concentrating on finish the things that are already underway, right? There's a couple things that slip past the goalie. So we wanted to do the concept design and the site search for the new animal services facility. The master plan for Crofton Park is done, and there's a lot of community support for some of those enhancements, so we're adding a new project there. And then there's only one new road project, but it's a safety improvement project in College Parkway, particularly at an intersection that had some pretty serious accidents in recent history. So we wanted to prioritize that. Everything else are just existing projects, and I can summarize that everything is pretty much funded as it was in the program, with a couple instances where we've been able to move things up. So Arundel Fire Station is moving up by 3 years, and we were able to expedite a couple other things as well. The community college capital CIP is in pretty good shape, and the school systems is in good shape as well. The county exec mentioned the field house, so that was an add from the Board of Ed in addition to the superintendent's request. I think there were 2 new field houses. What we did is there was a request, it all goes into athletic facility improvements. So there was already an ongoing request for $4 million for contemplated projects in there. I think the field houses added $8.8 million on top of that. So we had funded the 4, and we're adding $4.8 million for a field house. But I understand that there is some state funding that was in there too. If the council wanted to prioritize getting both field houses done, there's probably a way we can work that out. But the current budget includes enough funding for one. Wanted to bring to your attention that we're really getting involved with the Resilience Authority, helping out on some key capital projects. So the EV charging station, the plaza redevelopment, shoreline erosion control, a couple other shoreline projects, and then the Edgewater recreational improvements. Resilience Authority is adding a lot of value there and helping out. They're also doing a funding study for the West County Swim Center, which we hope that we'll have later this year, and that will bring some innovative funding options to help get that project across the finish line. This is what the capital budget looks like if you divide it up by class. So it's interesting, roads and bridges and Board of Ed are the 2 biggest ones there at a quarter each. So there's half your pie, and then Rec and Parks and Public Safety are the other 2 big ones. This is what it looks like if you put numbers behind those percentages, and you can see the FY27 budget, and then you can see the out years are totaled on the right side. Just real quick, and we're hitting the finish line here, folks. Major enterprise funds, again, this is just mostly for reference, but to show you, the utility fund, solid waste fund, where the revenues and expenditures go, so that you can dive deeper into if you want, and DPW will be before you in a couple weeks. Everything that's in here is also online, and what's really cool about the PDF is that it's bookmarked by the different departments, and you can also use Control F to search for things, and you can find that all on aacounty.org/budget. And this is the part where I remind you that myself and the budget office, we're here to help. So we work closely with the auditor's office. We work closely with you guys. If there's something you want to do with the budget or there's questions you have, let me know. We will get you answers. But just remember, you can only spend it once. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Trumbauer. Mr. Volke.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Page 67 of your presentation, Mr. Trumbauer, you have a general fund revenues estimate for FY27 all the way to FY32, which you're using in the debt affordability model. What is the general fund revenue growth that you're projecting year over year between FY27 and FY32?
All right, so what are you're referencing something on this slide in particular?
Yes, sir. The line that says toward the bottom, about through 2/3 down the page, general fund revenues, 2.364.
Oh, okay,
And then
right,
all the
yeah,
way
yeah, no,
What's the
so
growth rate?
Huja does a long time model. I might ask him to come up if he wants to explain that.
Is it 2.5? Is that what you're using, about 2.5, 2.55, somewhere
He'll
in
come
there?
up to the mic so it records you.
Okay, what's,
As far as I remember, I should have brought my computer, I will tell you exactly. But property tax, we use roughly 2.75%.
Okay.
Because that's our, roughly 2% is the CPI assumptions for us for the next couple of years based on the Fed 2% goal, 2.5%. And then a little bit new construction revenue each year. So that 2%. Income tax, we go usually around 4%. That's like a average wage growth we've seen. So other revenue areas, roughly between 1% and 2%, if there's any. So I would say FY27 to FY30 compounded annual growth rate, probably around 3%
a year?
a year.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Ms. Raffia?
Thank you. This is a shot in the dark. You might not know this off your head, and if you don't, I'm sure I'll find out from the Board of Ed next week. Do you know if the compensation increases for TAs and TSAs were funded, and if so, at what level?
So what I can recall is that we were able to fully fund what the superintendent's compensation request was, and I believe that was included with that. And then the Board of Education increased the COLA from 2% to 3%, and we weren't able to get to 3%, but we did 2.25%. So if that a specific line item was included in what the superintendent requested, then that is fully funded.
Okay. I think they did it, in my calculation, or the calculation that I've been working with, is actually just the hourly change, like the current hourly rate is 16.
Yeah, there definitely, there is an increase, and I will defer to when the board comes
Okay.
before you, they'll be able to explain. But yes, there was, beyond the typical, there's different parts of the compensation package. There's the COLA, there's the STEP, there's the career ladder for the blueprint, and then there were several specific things that were related to special ed positions and to the temps or the ones you're talking about.
Yeah,
And those are funded in our budget.
Okay, but they were funded at the superintendent's level, not with.
Did the board
They
increase
did.
them?
So the original request was, or I'm sorry, the current hourly rate is 16. Superintendent requested 17, and the Board of Ed requested 18.
Well,
They're just,
I know for sure that we did the superintendent's, and I don't know, we don't know offhand.
Okay.
If
I know.
we could afford it, we definitely did, but I don't know,
Okay.
because we were trying to get everything just in.
okay, I just know they're, and I'm sure you know this too, they're really important roles, and they're among the lowest paid in the system.
Right, yeah, that's why we
Yes.
definitely.
Which we did.
Funded him if we could, yeah.
Mr. Smith?
Oh, thank you. On the slide you have now, your debt services, I had projected that you guys were, what's causing the jump from 27 to 28 with 161 to 198?
Just as bonds are issued and they're
Oh, it's a new class of bonds that are being issued in 28, that's why that jump?
yeah, so that's planned out for the whole 6 years. So we know when we have bonds that are authorized every year,
Yeah.
and then they're attached to projects, and the county
About
puts them out, and then they're,
160 million-ish of new authority each year, yes. Oh, were you getting ready to come up? Okay.
yeah, sure. Huge will give you more information than you could possibly want.
So currently, based on the last year's bond ordinance, we have about $650 million authorized, but not issued debt. When, basically in that model, we assume that debt we're going to issue next 2 years. That's for conservativeness sake. So that basically explains $600 million if you issue at 5%. I think I have another slide earlier. $350 million debt at 5.5% is debt service 16 million. Oh, yeah, something like, so 40 to $45 million debt service comes from that $600 million I mentioned earlier.
No, I appreciate that, because that's the money that's coming out of our general fund to pay on the bond issuance
Right, so the debt service that comes out of this year is on all the bonds that have been issued. So as
And
more
that's
bonds get issued,
161
that
million
will
you're
grow.
projecting this year. And off the slide.
161, yeah,
Yeah,
that.
161.
Yeah, we had a slide earlier that showed the debt service payments for this year, and then the following years for 28 and 32 are our model based on what Hu just said.
Thank you.
Mr. Volkey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When we fund like OPEB contributions or health insurance contributions or things like that, are we funding those with recurring sources or one-time money?
Mostly recurring. When we have an opportunity, we have, especially for OPEB, since that's a less mature fund, we have been putting a little one-time money in there to kind of boost it. But the actuary gives us an annual contribution amount, and then it's been the administration policy to fully fund that.
Yeah, I got you. So
Out of recurring funds.
understood. But is that an option where we could sub out 6 million in recurring for 6 million one time?
You'd just be digging a hole for your future self.
Because then the next year you'd have to put in 12 or something or whatever else it goes. Okay, I got you.
I mean, money is money, but if
You can only spend it once.
It needs to be replaced in the future years. So, like I said, you'd be digging a hole for the next year.
Understood. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any further questions? Seeing nothing. Thank you, the infamous Mr. Trumbauer. You did a nice job.
My pleasure, Madam Chair.
We
Enjoy.
appreciate the presentation. So, all right. Is there any other business any council member would like to bring before the county council at this time? All right. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The county council is adjourned until Monday, May 4th, 2026 at 7 p.m. when we will have our next legislative session here in our chambers. Good job. Sometime. So they did a title search and found it.